For more than 7 years, the world has continued to mourn the loss of Nipsey Hussle.
This guy fires shots. Nipsey goes down. The guy starts walking away, comes back, shoots him again.
His music, his business vision, and his impact on Los Angeles have kept his name alive long after his tragic death. Yet while millions of fans revisited his interviews, streamed his music, and celebrated his legacy, one voice remained almost completely absent from the public conversation: the voice of his daughter. Now, after years of silence, that chapter has finally begun to change. In an emotional development that caught many fans by surprise, Nipsey's daughter has quietly stepped back into the public eye. Not through a television interview, not through a podcast appearance, and not through a lengthy statement. Instead, it happened through something much simpler: a single photograph that instantly spread across social media and reignited conversations about family, healing, and legacy.
Nah, I think it was like a combination of, you know what I'm saying, just being out of age. I left my house kind of early.
How old?
When I was probably like 14.
Okay, so you're on your own at 14 years old.
Yeah.
For years, the public knew almost nothing about her life. While countless documentaries, tribute videos, and articles examined Nipsey's impact on hip-hop and entrepreneurship, his daughter remained protected from the spotlight. There were no media tours, no viral interviews, and no attempts to capitalize on his father's fame. Her family chose privacy over publicity, allowing her to grow up away from cameras during the most difficult years of her life.
You know, I was doing things to try to get money so I could support myself. I always wanted to do music.
Then, in the final days of May 2026, everything changed. A graduation photo appeared online and immediately captured the attention of fans across the world. The image showed Emani standing proudly in her cap and gown, celebrating a milestone that many people had quietly hoped she would one day reach. Beside her stood two figures whose presence made the photograph even more powerful. On one side was her mother, Tanisha Foster. On the other was her uncle, Samuel "Black Sam" Asghedom, the brother of Nipsey Hussle, and one of the most important people responsible for protecting and preserving everything Nipsey built.
You see the shooter. He comes in from an alley off the side of this mini mall where the clothing store is.
The caption attached to the image was remarkably simple: "Congratulations to my baby." Just 4 words, yet those 4 words carried the weight of years of pain, healing, and perseverance. Within hours, the photograph spread throughout social media. Hip-hop blogs reposted it, fan pages celebrated it, news outlets picked it up. Thousands of comments flooded in from supporters who had followed Nipsey's story since the beginning. The same phrase appeared repeatedly beneath the posts: "The marathon continues." What made the moment so emotional wasn't simply that Emani had graduated from high school, it was what the image represented.
She had been only 10 years old when her father was killed outside the Marathon clothing store in March 2019. At an age when most children still rely heavily on their parents for guidance and security, she was forced to endure a loss that millions witnessed in real time. The entire world watched the tragedy unfold, but only a handful of people truly understood what it meant for the young girl left behind. Now, more than 7 years later, she stood on a graduation stage as a young woman. The contrast was impossible to ignore. The little girl the public remembered from memorial services and heartbreaking news coverage had grown into a graduate preparing for the next chapter of her life. For many fans, it felt as though time had suddenly accelerated. One moment she was a grieving child, and the next she was walking across a stage with a diploma in her hands. But perhaps the most significant detail wasn't the graduation itself, it was who stood beside her. For years following Nipsey's death, Tanisha Foster and Black Sam were involved in a highly publicized custody dispute regarding Emani's upbringing. Court hearings, legal filings, and family disagreements became part of a painful chapter that unfolded while Emani was trying to process the loss of her father.
This guy fires shots. Nipsey goes down. The guy starts walking away, comes back, shoots him again.
The conflict lasted years, the headlines continued, the tension seemed endless. Yet by March 2025, both sides had finally reached a joint custody agreement, bringing one of the family's longest-running disputes to an end. 14 months later, the graduation photo revealed something many people never expected to see. There were no lawyers, no courtroom battles, no public disagreements, just family. Two adults who had once fought over how best to raise a child now stood together celebrating her success. For many observers, that image represented something even greater than a diploma. It represented healing, it represented growth, and most importantly, it represented a young woman who had successfully navigated years of grief, public attention, and family challenges while remaining largely out of the spotlight. That is why the photo resonated so deeply with fans. It wasn't simply a graduation announcement. It was proof that despite unimaginable loss, despite years of legal battles, and despite growing up under the shadow of one of hip-hop's most beloved figures, Emani had continued moving forward. She had survived the hardest chapter of her life, and for the first time in years, the world was finally able to see just how far she had come.
Starts walking away again, comes back, shoots him a third time, and then kicks him, and then runs back.
What happened next would change hip-hop history forever. According to witness testimony and court records, the conversation between Nipsey Hussle and Eric Holder lasted only a few minutes. It wasn't a heated argument, it wasn't a screaming match, it wasn't the kind of confrontation that made bystanders think violence was about to erupt. In fact, several witnesses later described the exchange as surprisingly calm.
The subject of the conversation, however, was explosive. Rumors had reportedly been circulating throughout the neighborhood that Eric Holder had cooperated with law enforcement. In street culture, few accusations carry more weight than being labeled a snitch. Reputation is currency, and once that reputation is questioned, everything can change overnight.
I feel safe around you, protected, like a shield over me when you're around.
Yet witnesses consistently stated that Nipsey wasn't attacking Holder. He wasn't humiliating him. He wasn't trying to embarrass him in front of the neighborhood. Instead, several accounts suggested Nipsey approached the issue more like a warning from one homie to another. The message was essentially simple. If those rumors weren't true, Holder needed to clear his name before the allegations destroyed his reputation. The conversation ended peacefully. There were handshakes, no threats, no physical altercation. No one standing nearby sensed that they had just witnessed the beginning of a murder. Holder eventually left the area with Brianita Nicholson, the woman who had been driving him around that day. For roughly 10 minutes, everything returned to normal. Customers moved through the parking lot, employees continued working, friends stood outside talking. Then, everything changed. At approximately 3:19 p.m., Eric Holder returned, but this wasn't the same man who had left minutes earlier. He had changed clothes, he had armed himself, and according to prosecutors, he had already made his decision. Holder now carried two firearms, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol and a revolver. Surveillance cameras captured him approaching the strip mall from the side alley, moving directly toward the Marathon clothing store. There was no hesitation, no uncertainty. Every step appeared deliberate. The footage would later become some of the most analyzed video evidence in modern hip-hop history. Witnesses testified that Holder approached Nipsey and allegedly uttered words similar to, "You're through." Seconds later, gunfire erupted. The first volley of shots sent Nipsey crashing to the pavement, but the attack didn't stop there. Holder briefly walked away, then turned around and came back. He fired again. Nipsey lay helpless on the ground as another round of bullets struck his body. Then Holder turned away a second time and once again returned. A third barrage followed. The brutality stunned even veteran investigators. Surveillance footage showed Holder repeatedly returning to his victim after already inflicting catastrophic injuries. After firing multiple times, he kicked Nipsey in the head before finally fleeing back through the alley toward the waiting vehicle.
His soul was majestic. He was the strongest man that I ever knew, a gentle father, a patient leader, a divine light.
Inside the car, Brianita Nicholson reportedly had no understanding of what had just happened. According to her testimony, she was shocked and confused as Holder climbed inside and demanded that she drive away. Prosecutors later determined she had no prior knowledge of the attack and treated her as an unwitting getaway driver rather than a participant in the crime. When the shooting ended, Nipsey Hussle had suffered devastating injuries.
Court testimony later detailed approximately 11 gunshot wounds, including wounds to his head and torso. 2 other men standing nearby were also struck by bullets, but survived. Witnesses recalled hearing Nipsey utter the heartbreaking words, "You got me." Those would become some of the most widely reported final words in modern rap history. As chaos erupted throughout the parking lot, Nipsey's longtime friend, Herman "Cowboy" Douglas, rushed to his side. Desperately trying to save him, he attempted to stop the bleeding with his bare hands while waiting for emergency responders to arrive. It wasn't enough. Paramedics transported Nipsey Hussle to the hospital, but the injuries were simply too severe. At 3:55 p.m., only 35 minutes after the attack began, doctors pronounced him dead. He was just 33 years old. The official ruling was homicide. Within hours, the news spread across the world. Fans struggled to comprehend what had happened. Here was a man who had invested millions back into his own community, a man who employed local residents, a man who promoted education, ownership, entrepreneurship, and gang peace, a man who would become a symbol of hope for South Los Angeles. And now, he was gone.
You know what it is? Grief is the final act of love. My heart hears you.
Almost immediately, conspiracy theories flooded social media. Some claimed he had been silenced. Others pointed to his business ventures. Some suggested larger forces were involved. But investigators ultimately arrived at a much simpler explanation: a personal dispute, a wounded ego, a rumor, and a man who returned with guns after having time to walk away. Eric Holder surrendered to authorities 2 days later and was taken into custody. For law enforcement, the investigation was moving toward resolution. For Nipsey's family, however, the nightmare was only beginning, because while the public focused on finding justice for Nipsey Hussle, a 10-year-old girl was facing something even more difficult: learning how to live without her father. The graduation moment represented far more than a simple academic achievement. For the first time since 2019, Emani was intentionally placed back into the public eye, not through gossip blogs, not through courtroom documents, and not through secondhand reports from people speaking on her behalf. This time, her family made a deliberate decision to share a milestone with the world. That decision matters. For 7 years, nearly every public update involving Emani came through legal filings, custody hearings, or occasional family photos shared quietly among relatives. The world watched from a distance while lawyers argued, judges ruled, and headlines speculated. Through all of it, Emani herself remained largely absent. Then came the graduation photo, a single image. No interview, no press release, no lengthy statement. Just a young woman standing proudly between the people who fought hardest to protect her future. In many ways, that photograph became the first true public statement this family ever made about Emani's future. Not a statement written by attorneys, not a statement crafted for the media, a statement made through unity. A mother on one side, an uncle on the other, a daughter in the middle, together. The symbolism was impossible to ignore.
The little girl who stood frozen in front of thousands of mourners at Staples Center in 2019 had grown into a confident young woman walking across a graduation stage in 2026. Back then, grief had stolen her voice. The pain was simply too overwhelming. Millions watched as she stepped toward a microphone and couldn't find the words. 7 years later, she didn't need words. Her success spoke for her. Her resilience spoke for her. Her presence spoke for her. Every step across that stage told a story no interview ever could. A story of survival, a story of healing, a story of carrying unimaginable loss while continuing to move forward. The world wanted a statement. What it received was something far more powerful. Proof. Proof that despite losing her father at just 10 years old, despite years of family court battles, despite growing up under the weight of one of hip-hop's most legendary legacies, Emani kept going. And perhaps that's exactly what Nipsey would have wanted. Because throughout his life, Nipsey Hussle preached a philosophy that had nothing to do with fame and everything to do with character. He believed success wasn't something handed to you by circumstances, it was something built from within. As he famously said, "It's not on you, it's in you." Those words carry a different meaning today, because when people look at Emani's graduation photo, they're not just seeing Nipsey Hussle's daughter, they're seeing the values he spent years teaching her. Integrity, confidence, leadership, the same lessons he made her repeat on the way to school every morning, the same lessons that carried her through the darkest chapter of her life, the same lessons that continue to define the legacy he left behind. The marathon was never just about music, it was never just about business, it was never just about Nipsey. It was about perseverance, it was about purpose, it was about continuing forward when life gives you every reason to stop. And 7 years after his death, Emani's graduation became one more chapter in that story. A chapter filled not with grief, but with hope. Not with loss, but with growth. Not with endings, but with new beginnings. The marathon continues. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into the untold stories behind hip-hop's biggest legends, be sure to check out the videos appearing on your screen right now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching Hood Secrets, and I'll see you in the next video.